Welcome back to Gopher's Workshop. I am your host, Aaron, and joining me, as always, is my Vanna White of podcasting, Grills.
Excuse me?
That's right. Downgrade. Upgrade? Downgrade? I'm not sure what kind of grade that is.
You and I both know it's a downgrade.
So anyway, Chris, what are we talking about today? It's been a minute. We had to take a pause, X.
Okay, so let me start by explaining why we took a pause. Okay, the obvious answer is we're extremely busy, and unfortunately could use more help because it's a wild world of running a business and also trying to podcast and having the team and all that other stuff. The reality is we have pushed off recording several times because every time I feel like we're actually ready to record, we're like, but tomorrow they're going to drop all the points updates. And then before that, it was like, but we could go on here and talk about the Tacoma changes, but also like we should probably wait and see what happens at Tacoma. It's like, otherwise we're just complaining for no reason. So we've pushed it back several times, but here's why we pushed it back. And I want to make this really clear. I'm not here to get everybody in an uproar, though I plan on doing that.
No, it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned,
no,
though.
We're going to email some congressmen or something later. Anyway, I'm not here to get everybody riled up over what ifs, right? So I didn't want to get everyone riled up necessarily about the Tacoma stuff. I didn't necessarily want to get people riled up about whatever else until we had some like real facts. I believe that there's things we should be really concerned about. And I actively believe there are some things that like, if GW ended up making these changes, I was going to tell everyone, I want you to send kind of a shitty email to GW being like, what the hell? And I was going to ask everyone to do that. Calmer heads prevailed. We waited. We confirmed. Now we have some updates, and it turns out half the things that I would have sent really shitty emails about, I don't have to send anymore. We're way better.
I have faith in GW again.
Correct. All you had to do was trust GW over Tacoma, and the world's a better place. This is nothing against Tacoma. They're running their own event. They decided to do some cool stuff. I go to Adepticon every year. And Adepticon is notorious for doing wildly doesn't make sense stuff. And GW standing right next to them, and I have no clue how they get away with it. Whatever. We don't care about what these weird events are doing. We care about the game as a whole and what's the most likely issue that we're going to run into at the events we go to, because most events are following, for lack of a better term, letter of the law, right? They're following the rules as written. They're not just making stuff up because they're big enough they think they can. So anyway, getting into the actual rules, there's let's say a third of the stuff that Tacoma put out ended up actually being official, and GW just put out. Going over some of those, there is a maximum CP gain again of 1 per battle round, in addition to the 1 you get each turn.
I don't hate that.
Okay, and here's my thing. I don't hate it. I don't have a problem with it. If this is a thing, which it is, I'm not upset about it. My argument against it is that with the new addition, limiting stratagems to be once per turn, and also limiting each unit, or sorry, not stratagem once per turn. That's unclear. My apologies. Let me rephrase. Limiting units being targeted by a stratagem once per phase. So you cannot stack stratagems in any way anymore. That is huge. And they did clarify that, like, if this unit is, and I don't want to say they clarified, but it is clear amongst the TOs and such that, like, if you target a unit with a stratagem, and then they have an ability that says they can be targeted even if the stratagem's already been used, that does not supersede the unit can only be targeted once per phase, right? So you have to target 2 different units with the Overwatch or Heroic or whatever it is.
We've had
right?
that pop up a couple times already.
So The limitations on the stratagems themselves are part of the reason why I don't know that this CP limitation is really needed, but I'm okay with it. Here's why. For most factions in the game, there's not actually enough CP generation to really go wild. And even if you could kind of go a little wild, the limitations on the stratagems and targeting units, I think counters most of that. I don't think this is needed. But there is one example. It's in a single faction, in my opinion, across the whole game that, okay, maybe this is reasonable. And right now they're pretty popular. So for orcs are the only one that I think could spam units so hard that, and it's like grots, right? So they have like on a 4-up, if they're on an objective, they could gain a CP. On a 4-up, if they're spamming 3 units because they don't take the detachment mix and battle line, they're averaging 1, maybe 2 extra CP a turn. Again, half the turns, this is the same CP they were going to get anyway. The other half, when they're actually getting 2, they're getting a bonus CP. Is this crazy? No. If you take the detachment where they turn into battle line, and now I've got 6 units, and all 6 units, I get lucky and I gain 6 CP in a turn. Now does it feel crazy? Okay, you know what? Yes, I get that gaining 6 CP in a turn is crazy.
This might be a little bit of a problem.
I'm not arguing with that. But again, even when that's true, I think the fact that you're gaining 6 in a turn, but then you still can only use 3 strats? Because I can only target the unit once per phase, and your orcs, so it's almost entirely melee oriented. So half the stratagems you want to use are all in the same phase. So Again, I don't know that it's actually needed, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. I understand how it could get crazy later on. We still haven't seen a new codex yet, so we're not sure, again,
what the extent of this is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know the full impact on the edition. I don't think this is needed, but I don't mind it. I think that's actually it seems like a minor change. And I think it is a minor change, which is why it's not crazy, but it's worth talking about because that's one of the things that I could see going crazy on, absolutely nuts later on in the edition.
And to be honest, I feel like a lot of these updates were kind of preemptive versus reactive.
Which, so help me, is the best part of this whole thing. If you read Tacoma, everything feels super
reactive.
It's they're very scared, right? They're no, we have to change all these things because, what if? Jumping ahead a little bit, what's really funny is the Tacoma clarified grenades and tank shock. Well, if something says tank shock, it means crushing impact now. We have to clarify that because otherwise people are going to argue. GW didn't actually update that, right? They were just you know what we mean. Calm down.
Don't be a dick. You know what it means.
Yeah, we do know what it means, right? Maybe
we were very clear in the streams when we talked about it.
Maybe they did update some individual data sheets somewhere. Maybe the Cerastus Lancer actually got its data sheet updated. I didn't look at Knights specifically.
I haven't actually taken a look either myself.
Again, there's a bunch of this that's you don't have to get that picky. People are kind of reasonable, right? Anyway, on a similar vein, they talked about modifying strats, saying that if it says 0 CP cost, that's only true if it names the specific strat. Otherwise, it's -1. Again, I don't know that this was necessary because there's so few data sheets that haven't been updated.
Yeah.
But also reasonable. It's fine, I guess. No big deal. They talked about restricting bringing back new unit or destroyed units as new units being once per game. Again, reasonable. This is one of those things that I actually think was needed
big time.
If they left the no maximum on CP. Now that there's a maximum on CP again, I'm not saying this is needed. I'm saying this is okay, right? Limiting the CP, I think limited that pretty hard because almost all those strats are 2 or more. So whatever. One of the things that I haven't seen yet, and I was going to double check, but The thing that I really expected GW to do that I haven't seen yet that was in Tacoma was the dedicated transports. So they clarified in Tacoma that they wanted the 10th edition rule. If it's dedicated transport, it's required to have a unit inside it when it starts.
Okay, yeah.
You know what? Again, reasonable. I'm not upset about that. It's fine. That's what we're used to from 10th. I really expected to see that. Looking through all of this, I haven't seen that yet. And maybe I've missed it, but also, like, I don't think GW said anything.
Okay, so I have a hot take on that one. I feel like a lot of the factions that... The reason it was put in place is because you could action monkey with these things, right?
Sure.
And the reality is this edition has changed in so many other ways that we have yet to acknowledge as a whole. One of them being everybody has their own mission. And yes, I hear you. We've acknowledged that. The problem is in doing that, I repeat, everybody has their own play style too, which means more apt to, I like more tanks. I like more vehicles. I like more things. Well, if I can't take an impulsor because I have to have a dude in it and I don't want to take any bodies, I just want tanks, does that not restrict my creative play? Is this not what we're trying to aim for in the new edition, is narrative? And I understand we have to give up a little bit because rules and, the fairness of the game.
So that's actually the opposite argument. Like, I understand what you're saying, and you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, it limits your creative list building on the table.
Absolutely.
But specifically, I think one of the arguments here is, yes, for balance, right? There is a tax. If you want this dedicated transport that's surprisingly tough for a cheap cost, you need to purchase a unit to put inside it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. There is also the narrative argument, which is to say that, like, what Space Marines are going to show up with an empty Rhino and send the Rhino into battle? It doesn't do anything.
Sure.
It's got a Stormbolter that requires the co-pilot to get out of his seat to use. Like, no one's sending that in. So I agree with you. I liked the idea of infinite list building choices. I think that's my favorite part of this edition, and I'm going to encourage that as much as I possibly can.
Absolutely.
I do acknowledge that for most dedicated transports, it will feel a little cheesy in that, like, if I played Drukhari and I want to take a bunch of Venoms because they have an acceptable gun on them and they're fast as hell and they're cheap as hell and they're not super tough, but for Drukhari they are. So, like, again, having those as my action monkeys because I'm playing reconnaissance or disruption or whatever else, that's really efficient. And I love that as a list builder. Playing against that, I totally acknowledge that, like,
it's a little bit of a problem.
It's a dedicated transport, so you're allowed to take 6, and there's no tax to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not my favorite part.
It's a little bit of a problem.
Again, I'm not going to say it's a problem. I'm going to say it's one of those things that, like, I'm surprised. I'm not upset about. If this changes later, I'm not going to be like, oh, thank God. And I'm also not going to be like, well, about time. Like, no, it's fine either way. But yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise I've found so far. The big thing we have to talk about, the Necron in the room. So for all of the revive mechanics and heal mechanics, Tacoma said if you basically bring a character back for any reason in any way, it's a separate unit, or you're not allowed to get shit on.
Which I have a bunch of problems with.
I have mountains of problems with, and that's not because I play Necrons. I would argue even for Thousand Sun's sake, which I will never play ever, I still think it makes a lot of sense to just, like, but Precision arguably got better this edition, allowing me to heal a character back because my unit has healing, and my Necron characters are actually way softer than even kind of the main body. Let me have some anti-precision tech. Like, I think that's reasonable. That's not how most people are viewing it. But the reality is what happened is there was a bunch of divide on this. GW just put out their official rules, and while they did update a bunch of things to call out healing now so that it makes more sense, if you have a healing mechanic that heals the unit, there is nothing that they put out that I saw that prevents you healing characters and reviving them. I did see that they've made a bunch of datasheet and enhancement updates, not datasheet, excuse me, a bunch of stratagem and enhancement updates so that if you're able to bring a model back from dead and you use it via a strat, let's say, or an enhancement, now it breaks it off to be a separate unit with a starting strength of 1. I still have questions about that, but because it's only that, and I haven't seen data sheets getting updated with that have this ability changing, it means that if your data sheet ability, so like Titus or Celestine, those models that are attached to units, when they die and revive with their ability, they remain attached to the units, as far as I've seen so far.
And that fixes one of the big problems that you and I discussed multiple times.
Correct. It fixes, I think, a lot of problems, because these specific models, Titus, Celestine, I think these were a real problem for coming back to life as a separate unit. Because like Celestine, for example, she dies, you bring her back separately with her ability. Well, now I have her data sheet is technically still attached to the unit. And there's even models left from her data sheet in that unit. But then she's a separate unit, and then her data sheet says she gets to bring back bodyguard models, which is unclear. But that's why it was unclear at Tacoma, because it said like starting strength of 1. Okay, well, yeah, I'm starting strength of 1, but her ability specifically says put bodyguard, like her 2 bodyguards get to come back. So like, is it starting strength of 1 even though I have 3 models? Or like, again, it created a mountain of confusion. We're going to skip past arguing about all of this because it doesn't exist anymore. GW had a much more reasonable middle ground, and we're good. If you have enhancements or stratagems that bring a character model back, almost all of them got updated to say it comes back as a separate unit. If you have a datasheet ability, now it doesn't change at all. So you still are remaining attached to the unit. Fixes everything. Reasonable middle ground. I think this is a great change because it makes some people happy for the craziness that could happen.
Yes.
And it makes the rest of us happy for like what all the confusion it creates is mostly mitigated. Okay. I still think this is kind of bad for Necrons, if I'm being honest. Like everyone else, I think we fixed it for the most part. Necrons specifically, our characters are usually not very good, but they're synergistic. So now like Awakened Dynasty kind of is the only one punished, which I am way more okay with than punishing the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely.
To just like, you know what, Awakened Dynasty is a little crazy. The fact that you could bring the like Cryptek back, but now he's by himself, which means who cares because he's not scary at all. Okay, reasonable, right? I'm fine.
The sins of the past kind of thing that we got going on here, I'm happy to see we're getting some positive changes.
Yeah.
That being said, my big issues still exist on both sides because that stratagem just says it pops back up, right? Starting strength of 1.
Yeah, if you use the updated strats, yes.
Does it say specifically where on the battlefield it has to pop back up?
As close as possible outside of engagement.
Okay, so we are calling that out. Okay, because
that was already in the strat.
Okay, because I had an issue with that specific detail. So that kind of alleviates like you being able to score on your opponent's turn by doing some screwy things.
Well, so
kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I think the real issue that this creates is we're going to ignore punishing Necrons, but that's just like a mechanic of their characters are not meant to be standalone.
Yep.
So we're going to ignore that for a moment. For everyone else, bringing them back as separate units creates a bit of an issue because Purge, when not only does it allow your opponent to kill more, but you could just choose not to use the strat or whatever, right? But you pay for this enhancement, and now it's obligated to be in your list all day, but you play against Purge, and now like, I mean, the reality is between stratagems and enhancements, etc. I mean, you could be playing against a Purge player and you could say, I have 10 units to start the game. And at the end of the game, they're like, yep, I've killed 15 units. What the hell? Like,
yep.
Again, there's still parts of it that aren't ideal, but this is a solid middle ground.
Better.
I think I'm very happy with these to where we're appeasing those people that thought it was too powerful, but we're not making more issues than are really necessary.
I'm content because it looks like we're getting better.
Okay, so we're gonna. There's a bunch of other things we could go over about Tacoma specifically, but I don't know that I want to give them the time of day. Again, this is not something against Tacoma so much as, do we really need to talk about these like rules that turned out to not even be real for long term? I think we can move past most of Tacoma at this point. If people really wanted, I could spend an entire episode bitching about Tacoma because I disagreed with a lot of their changes. But that's, again, their event, their prerogative, cool, whatever. The only thing that, and the biggest issue I have in question with Tacoma is specifically it was a like US Open event. That means that it's kind of objectively sponsored by GW. I'm not saying it's run by GW, but like in order to get called an open, you are for sure sponsored by them at the very least. So I feel like deviating from them too much is a problem. I feel like they deviated from them a lot, especially after seeing how many of the changes they made actually stuck. Yeah. I'm concerned to let Tacoma like count against the stats because it's like, again, it's Necrons are so wildly different, and we can, as much as I hate,
didn't they get like 17th or 19th?
You wish.
I thought somebody scored higher.
Yeah, there was one guy that scored 19th.
Yeah, and then everybody else was just kind of like bottom of the row.
Oh no, so you'll enjoy this. So I pulled some stats because I was gonna bitch about Tacoma. I suppose we can go over them because I spent the effort. For Tacoma, there was 525 people who participated. Okay. Of them, 32 were Necrons. Okay. So we assume a somewhat even distribution. Here's our even distribution. Of the 525, 1 out of 32 made in the top 20. He was 19th. Then 2 out of 32 made the top 50. That includes that same guy that was in 19th. 7 out of 32 made the top 100. The reason this, I think, is a problem, and why I think their changes hurt them more than it probably should, is not because I want Awakened to be good and any of that stuff. I don't care about any of that. Necrons, sometimes they're on top, sometimes they're not. But the thing that always made Necrons good was the fact that they were reasonable. They were average or slightly above average all the time. And the good players made them feel crazy. And the people who were less competitive still did okay because the faction was forgiving.
Yeah.
If there's 7 out of 32 in the top 100 for such a arguably good, consistent faction, then this, what they're going to claim is a minor change, was way more impactful than anyone wants to admit. On the same note, Thousand Suns, they're the other one that I think got hurt the most from this change as far as, keep reviving leaders, etc. Mm-hmm. They had 18 total participants. They had 1 make the top 50. They had 5 make the top 100. I would also like to point out Thousand Suns got a lot of buffs. Not only did healing help them a bunch, but also they got their psychic across the board, which is a pretty big buff in 11th. Again, they got massive buffs, and their initial change in 11th for points and stuff like that, relatively minor. Now, they did just get updated in points, which we can talk about later, where they got kind of pretty good nerf.
Yeah.
which is funny because their results at Tacoma were not very impressive. But like, again, I think their changes for Tacoma should not count towards like global numbers. There was too much different that drastically hurt certain factions that didn't need it.
I would tend to agree with that.
So we can talk about some other changes, but it's surprising how impactful some of the changes feel, but how few there actually are, right? Like, for the most part, the universal rule changes, so ignoring like specific faction datasheet updates, army rule updates, etc., we've already gone over all of them. That's how few there were by GW. That's a lot. Like, it feels like a big deal, but also this giant packet for Tacoma that I printed out and like wrote all over. They did it in half a page. They said, nope, we don't need any of this stuff. Half a page, that's more than enough. Okay. I've got a five-page document here from Tacoma that says they didn't think that was enough.
For you at home, I just want to let you know, he literally combed through that real quick.
Like, it's wild to me that not that Tacoma decided to do this. It's not that there's so few changes. It's wild to me that they coincide, right? This is an open event where GW effectively sponsors and showed up there and was like, for lack of a better term, like co-hosting the event. And they disagreed with Tacoma so hard that they said half a page is enough. Why did Tacoma do so much?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, as I'm best known to do. And I have a question for you. What if this was the intent? What if Tacoma was in fact told by GW, hey, we're totally cool with you making these changes. In fact, we're going to assist you in writing some of these rules and making these changes, which we know because part of the TO program, they sent us an email saying we did assist with these.
Yep.
What if they did this saying we need a major rules overhaul and we already acknowledge this, but these are the things that people are complaining about on the internet all over the place, as we know GW likes to look at.
Correct.
And they're saying, hey, Tacoma, are you okay with us making some of these really wild changes with your assistance and your input, and then using some of that data, 2 weeks later? Was it a week or 2 weeks?
That was this weekend.
Okay,
this is 2 days later.
2 days later, using that data to then turn around and like make the data slate update.
Okay, so this is actually the exact argument that I told to several people in the store. Okay. Yes, I 100% believe that this is exactly what it was for, right? They're going to I don't think we need this, but everyone's asking for it. So let's make the change. And then we can use Tacoma to be like, holy shit, we didn't expect Necrons to do that bad.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do all that. Or again, there's several other things in here, right? Like the overhaul for GSC and so there's other stuff too, but I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
I 100% believe that's the purpose. Here's my only caveat to that. I'm surprised that they put the rules out 2 days later. Could they have taken all the information from Tacoma, gotten back from the event to their home states and whatever else, and then spent all of Monday grinding this out so that it's ready to put out officially on Tuesday? Yes, that's totally possible. Also, this is a big corporation. They're traveling states away. They're working on weekends when they normally don't. I have a funny feeling it's not that crazy. I have a funny feeling if they had released this update a week after, 100% I believe that, and I would preach it. The fact that they released it 2 days after the event makes me feel like a fair amount of this was already set in stone. Right? Now, do I believe changes were made? Absolutely. Because Necrons, for example, they could have been you know what? This seemed too crazy. It clearly impacted it. I could spend 20 minutes looking at this and just say, axe that paragraph. Don't put it out. That's a simple change that Tacoma could have directly impacted 100%. Now, on the flip side, though, many of these changes, especially when it comes to points, I think have nothing to do with Tacoma. Because if we look at it, like I just said, Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns didn't do very well.
They did not, no.
But yet they still got a bunch of points increases. So if they're using Thousand Suns, or if they're using Tacoma strictly to influence their changes, they're not correlated. And we could look at other things, other faction point updates too, and I could make the same argument. So some of these changes, I think, were already set in stone ahead of time. Another one
and
that I want
agree.
Another one I want to get into later when we talk about actual point changes is Guard, right? There's been a big hubbub about like Guard are terrible, and then out of nowhere they're doing good. And people keep asking me like, why do you think they're doing good all of the sudden? And the way they word the question makes me lose my little mind, because it's like, no, you're saying that some YouTuber or somebody online said with like a week and a half of data in a brand new edition that Guard were bad, and you just believed him. You trusted that. And now that we're seeing what Guard actually do, no changes, all of a sudden Guard are doing so much better, and you're like, how did they get better? No, this is how they always were. There was no change. This was them from the beginning, but people were too impatient and too ill-informed to like have good data. So they just trusted the internet, which was also ill-informed and didn't have enough data.
Yep.
So that, no, there's no changes. Now, this I think has actual negative impact, right? The fact that the whole internet universally agreed with not enough information, because they all just pointed to the guy to their left and said, yep, that's what he said. And it was a big circle. Because they all said Guard was bad, you know what happened in the points updates? A bunch of things got cheaper.
Points got, I noticed that.
But again, if we're using Tacoma as the example, Guard didn't do bad at Tacoma. I'm not saying they won the thing, right? But they didn't do bad. And everyone's talking about how good Guard is now. Well, they're talking about how good Guard is, and everything just got cheaper. Why did it get cheaper if they're so good? Because these things were set in stone at least a week ago, if not a couple of weeks ago, right? And and GW, and I've said this many times, when they make their points updates, only some of them are for balance. At least half, if not a majority of them, are to appease the masses, right? They're listening to us. When we're on the Reddit and bitching up a storm about how bad Guard are, or how like Dak is overpowered, or whatever else, they're listening. And if they disagree with us, they kind of take a step back and say, well, our job is to make all of our players happy. Yes, we want a balanced game, but also if everyone is upset with us because what we think is balanced is not what they want to play, we should make the changes so that they can play what they want to play. I'm not saying this is good for the game. I'm objectively saying it's bad. I'm saying there's too many people, keyboard warriors, that are just on the internet bitching after playing 2 games of the edition and saying that they know that their faction's underpowered, or so-and-so that they've played against twice has beaten them both times, so they're absolutely overpowered. Like,
even we're guilty of. People all the time, all over the place, all over the world. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you own a podcast. I don't care if you work for GW. We're all guilty of it when our precious little babies get not the thing we wanted. We go, well, this is gonna suck. Oh my God. We always throw our hands up. It's just the natural human reaction to disappointment. The reality is, the difference is, when you take the time to sit down and play with the thing, like I was disappointed lag wasn't purge. And then I sat there and I played with it. I was like, well, this is just the reality of the situation. So no point in bitching, just accept it and move on. Turns out, no, I absolutely, after weeks of playing lag, no, I absolutely agree. It should be lag. It should never be purge. I understand you feel like it should do that. Absolutely not. It is 100% I'm gonna sit here, you're not gonna move me. Also, I'm gonna blend you.
Sure, but again, that's partially a misconception of what we want, and partially a misconception of kind of the balance of the game, right? Because a lot of people are finding that like recon, requires more killing power than people realized. Right? Like you can have a million shitty 5-mans running around, and I don't care that they're all on jet bikes and fast as fuck. Like, right? It turns out you score heavy early, and then you fucking fall over, and you never get max because you didn't kill a single thing. So they're at 2,000 points, even on turn 5.
Yep.
Well, that's not useful. That's not that you can't do that and win. But if we take our a step back from the initial like day 2 reaction of what recon is, and acknowledge that like I still have to kill things, I still have to have these durable units, because I can't just yeet a 3-man bike squad out there and hope that they're going to live forever. Now we have people doing very well with recon.
Oh, absolutely.
But as much as that's true, they're understanding that it's not just throw shitty units at them and stat check them to see if they have enough shooting. Like, that's not it. Same goes for Purge. There's a lot of people that are starting to like question, is the minimum number of units like 5? Because people are like trying to push it to less is more. Well, Purge says I have to kill more than my opponent. So if I can run like 5 units, why wouldn't I? Okay. But then what happens when you still have to hold an objective because you're playing against take and hold? What happens when you still have to no, it's not enough.
Nope.
So the minimum units for Purge isn't 5. It isn't 6. We're like, no, you know what? 8 units, I think, is probably the minimum. You go any less than that, and there's certain missions, not every mission, but there are certain missions that are way harder than they probably should be.
Yeah, I think we as a whole, as we take a step back and we start to look at these things, we're starting to realize our perception versus reality. Maybe we should just take 2 seconds and learn to play the new edition.
And for what it's worth, we're already getting some of the natural kickback of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the example being Guard. It turns out people are just playing the edition. There's plenty of like diehard Guard players out there that like, I don't care if the internet says my faction's bad. I love Guard. I'm going to play him anyway.
Yep.
The fact that they're doing that, and that's going to happen in every faction, right? Every faction has their like, this is my faction. They don't do anything else. They're already doing good. And people are like, oh, but I thought they were bad. I wasn't even looking at them. Well, that was your problem. Turns out they are good. They're just not on the surface easily to look at good. They're on the table good. You're going to get that all over the place. That's with forced dispositions. That's with factions. That's everything.
Mm-hmm. And
the only way we can get real information, we stop listening to the internet.
Yeah, don't listen to Chris.
I'm telling you, don't listen to me. The one thing that you should listen to me about is do not listen to anyone on the internet, even if that includes me. You are going to get better, more accurate information if you go play games. You get reps in, you go to tournaments, you're going to learn more about your faction. You're going to do better in the long run. You're going to position better. You're going to realize points efficiency better by getting the reps in than you are listening to me sitting at home. Okay? Absolutely. That's the only thing I want you to listen to me for. Everything else, grain of salt, right? I've got my opinions. I think I'm right. I could be wrong. That's not my concern. If you want the objective truth, you're going to get that by going and getting reps in. And going to tournaments specifically where you get a more diverse group than you and your 3 buddies in your basement. Okay? Go to tournaments.
Bold of you to assume that I have 3 buddies and a basement.
Well, I know you have a basement, and I assume the 3 buddies are the like...
It's probably just you and the kids.
I don't know that you have 3 buddies, because I'm not sure the kids are buddies to you, but...
You're right.
They're in that age, all right? They hate you as much as I do. It's fine.
Sick burn.
Anyway. All right, so going into forced dispositions, I have some more stats from Tacoma.
Of course you do.
So of the 525 different lists, To no one's surprise, the most popular is Purge at 140 people.
Yep.
Again, this is not saying that Purge is the best. I'm telling you it's not. Purge is very good for certain factions. It is less good for others. It is objectively the most played right now because it is the simplest. Okay. So even there are factions that I think should be playing Purge. Objectively, I think it's best to Purge, do that thing, go. That is not to say that this number feels very accurate, right? It is how many people showed up with Purge because we are a month into the edition or less. And this is the simplest to understand, it's simplest to do good with. Fair. No argument, okay? There was 140 Purge. Second most popular, Take and Hold. Again, no surprise. It's the second simplest. It makes sense, okay? Surprise, and that's at 118. At third, no surprise, but surprisingly close to Take and Hold at 112, so only 6 different, is Priority Assets. Okay? This is, again, very reasonable because while this one is less simple than Purge and Take and Hold, this is notoriously been referred to as playing 10th edition. Like it's the most common to kind of what we were doing before. Mm-hmm. So the fact that people are able to pick this up very quickly because it's so similar to 10th makes a ton of sense. Okay. These are all good. No arguments, no questions. Here's where we get into what is a little more surprising. So 4th place is Recon. I'm not going to say that's surprising, but it had 69 players. Nice.
Yeah, giggity.
So it's a significant drop off. Okay. Did I expect a significant drop off towards Recon? Yes. Especially this early. Recon generally didn't do all that great. Okay. And I think that's because people are, like I said earlier, are still getting used to the Recon still has to have a real amount of killing. Yes, it needs to be mobile. Yes, it needs to have a bunch of cheap units, but it still has to have a reasonable amount of killing or durability in addition to those a bunch of units, because you can't just be wiped on turn 4 and expect to win.
Yeah.
Not with Recon, because Recon generally is outputting less damage. So then, the thing that I think is kind of the most surprising to me is Disruption is last. Not that it's last, but that there was only 33 players out of 525 even attempting Disruption.
Okay, that is kind of wild.
And to also, while this makes sense, Disruption did the worst. Disruption did not do very well as a whole, right? Everybody, all 5 of them had someone who got like in the top 100 with that thing, right? So like you can do well with all of these, but generically Disruption did the worst, which makes some amount of sense because it's the least represented, right? So it has the least number of players even attempting to do good with it. Mm-hmm. As much as all that's true, Disruption should have better representation than this, and it should be doing a little better than it is. I'm not saying that it's the best, go do Disruption. I'm actually going to say that knowing what I know now, Disruption is the hardest of all 5 to play, for certain. Okay?
I knew it would be.
Disruption is not the hardest to play because it's difficult to score. It's relatively easy to score. Disruption is the hardest to play because you have to be able to flex and adjust play styles so drastically. Mm-hmm. So I want to put it this way. Disruption isn't actually a forced disposition. Disruption is the mirror forced disposition. Okay? So 4 out of 5, if you're playing Disruptions versus Purge, it wants you to kill stuff. Okay? If you're playing Disruption versus Take and Hold, it wants you to hold stuff. If you're doing Disruption versus priority. It wants you to like fight over the center, which is where they want to be too. Like disruption feels like I need to kind of do what my opponent's doing. And this generally is pretty rough because if I'm playing against a purge or a take and hold, they've built their list around being the most durable they can, being the most killy they can. Like they're specialized at that thing. I'm just showing up with a flexible list because while I may have to outkill the purge list this turn or this game, next game I've got to like out action that recon list. So like it's the most difficult to play for sure. But what's really funny is that like playing against or playing the same mission to some degree as your opponent, you score it so much easier because you're disruption, right? Like I'm just going to make up numbers here because I don't have them memorized, but if you're doing disruption versus purge and they get like 2 units per unit killed or 2 victory points per unit killed, well, that's pretty good, right? Except for you get like 4. Like I'm
I
not,
understand you're supposed to be really good at this.
Yeah,
and
like,
I'm going to
again,
let you be,
those,
but also I'm going to score more.
Those numbers aren't accurate, but the missions are balanced to the point to where it's like, yeah, you both have to kill stuff, but they only score off killing, and you score off killing and also holding objectives, and you score off killing and doing actions, and it's like, no, it turns out it's really easy to score, but your list has to be so balanced and so flexible that this is the hardest one to play, because while a mission sounds simple enough, again, going from round 1, I have to play purge. Round 2, I have to play take and hold. Round 3, I have to play a billion actions recon and, table quarters. And then round 4, I have like go against priority where we're all fighting over the center. As a player, that's really difficult to change how I play the game. I have to have a game plan for my list that is drastically different every matchup. This is why the numbers are slow for disruption. I do not want people saying that disruption is bad. It is not. It is difficult. I agree. The reasons we're seeing the highest numbers in purge is not because it's the strongest. It's because it's the simplest, right? And 3 weeks into the edition, simple is good. 3 months into the edition, there's going to be plenty of purge players that are struggling to deal with the recon lists. There's going to be plenty of purge players that are struggling to deal with the take and hold lists. It's going to happen. Okay.
You're right. The only thing I think on the other side of this coin, I don't think take and hold is going to struggle that much in the recon because the reason I say this is because it is the simplest of the missions, and because it's so simple, it gets to be super flexible just because.
And I hear you. Counter argument. Take and hold is not the simplest. Purge definitely is. However, take and hold I think is the most consistent.
Okay, I could agree with that.
And I want to make that clarification specifically because yes, take and hold is consistent. I have to stand in circles, and if I can have the best durability on the table, my opponent doesn't have enough to kill me. Now it becomes a question of OC.
Yeah.
And if it's a question of OC, now I think take and hold does have a hard time against recon because they have so many units, so many models. And in recon, depending on the faction you play, that may turn into a bunch of 5-man battle line units, which have double the OC that you have, right? Because it depends on like take and hold. If you're playing take and hold Marines, you have an OC problem.
Yeah.
That's like the fault of Marines. If you're playing take and hold Eldari, well, now you have a bunch of bodies, but now they're all T3 and like 4 armor and like, So like now you can out OC anybody. But now even a not very killy disruption list could still mow through units because you're only T3 with like 4 up armor or 5 up armor. Like you're really soft. So again, I'm not saying take and hold is the best. I'm not saying it's going to actually be the best long term, but I think it's the most consistent.
Yeah.
If you build for durability, yes. But that build for durability has a fault, right? It has usually the more durable you are, the less OC you have, or the less damage output you have. Both of which can be an OC problem in the end.
Well, and even then, like, I don't have it as much as everyone else in this front, but you also get to sacrifice speed and damage by being durable. It's not just OC. Sometimes it's speed and damage output.
Correct.
Which now means other things are going to be problems.
Right. And that's why for your specific list, you have the speed, you have the damage output, though you've given some of it up to have durability because you're playing take and hold, and that totally makes sense. But you do have an OC problem, right?
I do.
So like...
Well, not really. I actually have 2 OC on per model on some of my units. But that's just because Sanguinary Garden banner. I understand 2 OC is not impressive.
On a 6-man unit where you are going to lose some dudes, right? You're durable, so the unit's gonna live, but that doesn't mean that your models are gonna live, right? So yes, you still have an OC problem, but your answer to your OC problem isn't OC, it's damage output. There are other factions which are going to be durable and they're gonna have good OC, but then they won't have the damage output. So it becomes like a question of who can like body block the objective enough, who can keep the enemy's models off there because they're durable and they have good OC, but they don't have the damage output. So if I let the opponent get too many models on and they out OC me, I'll never be able to fix that. So this is part of what I'm saying. The different dispositions have different things you need to lean into. Generally, there's always trade-offs all the time. So for example, Purge the Foe lists, I have played against a bunch of Purge the Foe. I've played against Purge the Foe players that like are bragging about like how hard they're killing people. And then they play against my Take and Hold, which is holy shit durability focused.
Yep.
And it turns out all of a sudden they're like surprised at the end of the game where they're like, man, I felt like I couldn't score. Yep. Because you were doing a bunch of damage, but you weren't finishing off units. And you weren't finishing off units, not because you don't have the damage output, but because I've spent so many points on durability. I've given up mobility. I've given up damage output. I've given up a bunch in order to have more and more durability. That works for me. That works for my faction. If I switch factions, again, I go to Eldari, I go to Orcs. Am I really going to want to take and hold via durability, or am I going to want to take and hold via damage output? You're doing take and hold kind of via damage output. You have some good durability, but you're mostly doing it through mobility and damage output, which is an odd take, but your faction specializes in that, so it makes sense. Blood Angels specialize in mobility. Even if you stick with only Marines, going to like Imperial Fists or even Iron Hands, you don't really specialize in mobility then, which means trying to do the same thing you're doing with an Iron Hands list isn't going to work out, right?
No.
Playing Canik Var and a bunch of Terminators, you've given up a bunch of mobility, but you're playing Iron Hands, and that's right. But you're playing Iron Hands, and that's still good for you, right?
No.
But you don't have access to a Lone Op Mephiston and a Lone Op Sanguinor and like these crazy jump pack characters that you can make regular jump pack units so scary. You just don't have that.
Yep.
So these force dispositions, again, depending on your faction, you can do them in different ways, which is why you have access to all of them, and all of them are viable. Depending on your faction, you're going to specialize in certain things, which means certain dispositions are going to be easier than others.
Agreed.
Okay.
I mean, World Eater says way better, easier time doing Purge than
others, right? And I'm not disagreeing with that. Just like EC, I think EC should be playing Purge more than they are, because I think they're good at that. That doesn't mean that they can't play priority assets.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they can't play. They can still have very good, very competitive lists, and EC could do priority all day. There's nothing wrong with that. That might even technically be the better option. But from my perspective, I think they're playing, from the list that I've seen, they're not playing enough Purge because they're preferencing the detachment abilities that they want over the dispositions.
Yep.
Okay.
And I do agree. We're going to start to see some sort of shift here soon in play styles and choice of lists based on that. Even I have, with the new 1DP detachment where jump packs are re-rolling hit rolls, I've even hemmed and hawed about changing it. I've built a list. There's a degree of me debating list change or detachment change and just dealing with the lack thereof damage output or trying to find other ways to get it back. But the reality is that my play style is what's going to determine first for me.
Correct. What
play style is what I'm going to play. And at that point, once I've determined my play style, I'm then going to build my list around it and accept the disposition it comes with and choose to build into that disposition.
Yep.
But they all kind of coincide. So I don't feel
so
wrong.
You're right. And that's the hand-in-hand thing that you have to like. Your play style influences what dispositions you're good at. Your faction influences what dispositions you're good at. But just because your faction says play X and your preference is to play X, if you end up doing X, but then you don't build for it, and let your preferences kind of be mitigated by what the mission says do X, but my list is built for Y, it's still not going to work, right? So there's like three things that kind of all go together that you have to balance. You can synergize with that, and it can be very powerful, very good, right? Like the list that I built for 11th for Necrons, it's absolutely great, right? It's not because it's the best. It's because it fits my playstyle. It's because I was able to use a 1-point detachment to get me the disposition that fits my playstyle and list the best. And then I used my list to lean into the mission instead of trying to force things that, well, the internet says, this is good, I should play that. Nope. It turns out this is what fits the mission the best. So that's the units I'm putting in. Yes, I would rather play some other things. I want to play a Nightbringer, but that's not what's best for this list. So I have to take a step back and say, I'm not going to play that because that's not what's best for the mission.
Well, and I wanted to play a bunch of jump packs. That's not best. It really isn't.
And again, you're playing enough that you are getting what your faction does best out of it. But then after you get what you need out of your faction, you're saying the mission dictates I need some more durability than I need speed. So I'm going to downgrade some extra JPI to be Blade Guard or something else because you need that extra durability since you're doing take and hold.
Well,
and
what
again,
else we got?
I want to recap all of this by saying we keep referencing Purge and Take because I encouraged everyone to do the simple thing at the beginning of the edition, right? I want you to play Purge. I want you to play Take and Hold or Priority. I kind of limited to some degree everybody to those three because the priority was learning the new edition. Now that a lot of us are feeling more comfortable with the edition, now I need all of us to break out of that shell and say, like, I know you've been doing Take and Hold. You should give Recon a try because your faction's so mobile. You should give Priority Assets a try because now that you understand the new edition, your faction is very balanced. So you could do 10th edition style where you're always throwing something to do an action and you're always throwing something to go kill that. And you're always throwing something up to go hold that. Again, we need to break out of that and try the other dispositions because, again, I think people will be very surprised about how well they can score disruption, how well they can score priority assets. They don't have to just take and hold. They don't have to just purge. All right. we've been rambling on long enough. I think for this, we still have a lot to go over because I've tried to avoid talking about the points changes at all. So why don't we take a break here? We'll go from a part 1 to a part 2. Unlike what we normally do, I'm going to get this part 2 out. Like, we're going to record it right now. We're going to edit up as quick as we can, and we're going to get that out soon, shortly after part 1. So you guys have more like episodes to kind of chew through since we've missed a few weeks. And it's all going to be kind of on the same topic. So it'll be a nice, smooth transition. We'll start talking about points right after this, and then kind of where we think things are going a bit, and also where we might be going.
I don't like that look. That was a bad look.
Anyway, before we end this first part, though, we do need to thank patrons.
We do! Patrons! So, first up on our patrons roster is our Guardsman patrons, starting with Sergeant Matt's Many Minute. Then we have to thank our other Guardsman patrons, Captain Beefalo, Andy. Andy's leaving us soon.
So he's only kind of leaving us. He's leaving the local area, but also he's already talked to me, and he's still going to be in the group. He's still going to be chatting us up on the Discords and all the good stuff. So
then we have to thank our White Shield Guardsman patrons, Mitch, Nicodemus, birth. There, yeah.
I don't even think you started with the right letter.
I didn't even start with the right letter. And Stephen Grace, and of course, our Servo Skull patrons, Des and Renee. So thank you to our patrons, because without you, we wouldn't have a show.
Yep. Also, tell your friends, we need more Servo Skulls.
We need more Servo Skulls. Oh God, that sounds awful.
First off, that is exactly what we are here for. That is the Imperium.
I need more Servo Skulls.
Correct. We need more Servo Skulls. Servo Skulls are very cheap, both in universe and out. So tell your friends. If we are helping you through these episodes, if your friends are learning things via us or via you because of us, we would appreciate any sort of support we can get. And Servo Skulls are nice and cheap. So.
And even if that's a little bit too far out of your price range, or you're like, listening also helps.
Yep.
Those lovely ads that you listen to at the beginning and the end, and you're like, no, that's dollars. You listen to those.
Okay, and for what it's worth, I will ask for a specific shout out. If there's anyone who's listening who is not subscribed to our YouTube, we are currently not monetized on YouTube. But we are trying our damnedest. If you can get people to listen on YouTube, whether it's you or your friends, and you can get them to specifically subscribe, we are close, but not there for the monetization there. So I would love the extra little push for those numbers. So if you want to listen to part 2 on YouTube, or just go over there and subscribe as a way to help out, that would be great.
Well, with all that being said, I think that's it for this episode. So we'll see you in the next one. Boy. Hey everybody, it's Aaron. I want to thank you again for tuning in for this episode of Gopher's Workshop with us, hanging out and listening. Remember, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. And if you feel like supporting us, you can always go to Patreon in the show notes below. Thanks. Till next time.